Good morning. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Welcome to the April 2nd, 2025 Public Safety and Justice Subcommittee. I'd like to introduce City Attorney. It's Lisa Blanford this morning. Ms. Blanford, please explain the role of the public comment.
Thank you, sir. Good morning. Members of the public may speak for up to 2 minutes to comment on agenda items to be discussed. Comments must be related to the agenda item and the action being considered by the subcommittee. The City Council and staff cannot discuss or comment on matters related to pending investigations, claims, or litigation. Additionally, any member of the public who appears before the subcommittee in their capacity as a lobbyist must, as required by Phoenix City Code, disclose the fact before addressing the subcommittee. During citizen comment, members of the public may address the subcommittee for up to 3 minutes on issues of interest or concern to them. The Arizona Open Meeting Law permits the subcommittee members to listen to the comments, but prohibits members from discussing or acting on the matters presented. The City Code requires speakers to present their comments in a respectful and courteous manner. Profane language, threats, or personal attacks on members of the public, council members, or staff are not allowed. A person who violates these rules will lose their opportunity to continue to speak. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Blanford. I would also like to introduce our interpreter, and I believe it's Elsie Duarte. Ms. Duarte?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Buenos días, mi nombre es Elsie Duarte. Estaré interpretándoles a nuestra audiencia de habla hispana durante esta sesión de seguridad pública y justicia. Como parte de un nuevo formato de interpretación, al momento de hacer su comentario ya no será necesario hacer pausas. Esto significa que usted podrá hablar libremente sin interrupciones durante el tiempo disponible. Sus comentarios serán interpretados al momento que usted termine de hablar. Gracias. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Duarte. Okay, we start the subcommittee meeting with a call to the public, and I do not believe we have any registered speakers at the very beginning. Thank you for that. So we'll move to item number 1, approval of the PSJ minutes from March 5th, 2025. Do I have a motion?
Move to approve.
I have a motion and a second. Any questions? Being none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
The chair votes aye. Those opposed? Passes unanimously. Okay, our first presentation today is item number 2. We'll welcome Assistant Fire Chief Daniel Cheatham, Deputy Parks and Recreation Director Jared Rogers, Deputy Communications Director Ashley Patton, and Police Commander Christine Calderon to the table. They will provide a presentation on the city's drone program. Welcome, and the floor is all yours.
Thank you, Chairman Robinson, members of the subcommittee. My name is Daniel Cheatham. I am the UAS Program Manager for the Fire Department. In today's update, you'll hear from representatives of the city departments that have active UAS programs, and that'll be fire, police, parks, and communications. Public Works does have an approved program, but it has not gone live yet, so they'll be included in future updates. As you'll hear today, all of these departments are successfully leveraging this technology, but none of that would be possible without the leadership from Assistant City Manager Lori Bays and her team. She's the co-architect of our governance structure that's nationally recognized. That creates a path for any departments that want to develop a drone program. It also promotes consistency across all of our departments, and it addresses some of those high-ticket items like privacy, security, and transparency. So I just wanted to recognize her team. With that, I will go ahead and get into the fire department's portion of this presentation. So our program history, what are the benefits of UAS? Well, it's a force multiplier for our department. It increases situational awareness, it decreases the workload on our members, and it helps keep our firefighters and our residents more safe. Our program launched in June of 2022, and we immediately saw an impact from the use of drones. If you see this picture on our screen, this is from a fire off 30th Avenue in Lincoln, where our command officers, and we have some of the best in the country, but we're expected to identify what's on fire, routes of access to the fire. Is anybody injured? And how do we successfully mitigate that by making assignments and all the while keeping our firefighters safe? Now with UAS, this is the view we can supplement them with, a 360-degree aerial view where they can see access, they can identify any hidden hazards, they can see the effects on adjacent occupancies, and with our thermal cameras, we're able to keep an eye on our members and make sure that they're operating from safe positions. Our program has grown exponentially. We started with just one pilot and one visual observer 5 days a week. Now we have 10 pilots, 3 visual observers that operate 7 days a week. Our program is really, in fire departments, we are one of the gold standards. We've presented at webinars, at UAV expos, so in just a short time, our program has really grown, again, to be a gold standard for fire departments. When it comes to training, all of our pilots come in with their FAA 107 certification. When they come in with that certification, then we take all of that knowledge from their FAA testing and we show them how it's applicable in the city of Phoenix, in the areas we operate, and on the type of missions that we fly. Additionally, they have to complete a PFD UAS flight task book, and that has flight competencies from very beginner level to advanced, and they have to be signed off on all of those competencies in that task book before they can operate on emergency scenes. And then we follow that up throughout the year with continuing education. This technology is always growing and changing, so keep them up on the latest and greatest best practices, and then working on those foundational skills in our program. Deployment. So Phoenix Fire has a emergency response vehicle with the call sign of Drone 1. That vehicle is located off the 51 in Indian School, so centrally located, and it travels to emergencies all throughout the city of Phoenix and sometimes other adjacent cities when Phoenix Fire Department resources are assisting them. That vehicle has 3 different types of drones. The one you see pictured here is really our workhorse. It has a speaker, a spotlight, it can carry a payload, it has a thermal camera, but one of the best features is it can operate in temperatures up to 122 degrees. We have a medium-sized drone that we utilize for mapping because of the camera and the shutter speed, and then we have a drone that'll fit inside the palm of your hand. That's more for interior operations, confined space, and things like that. We also have 2 tethered UAS. They are affixed on 2 of our command officer vehicles, one being in Council District 2, Councilman Waring's district, next to Desert Ridge Marketplace. Another one is in Council District 8 off 3rd Street in Rozier. The beauty of these tethered UAS is they don't have to have an FAA license to operate these, although they go through extensive fire department training. With the push of a button, those drones can go up to 150 feet. They don't have to have batteries changed out, so they can operate as long as that truck is running. Additionally, they have thermal camera on there as well, so those really give us early eyes on some of our incidents. And then live streaming. This is where we've really grown in our drone program. So whether we're operating one of our free fly drones or a tethered drone, we can live stream that information to our command officers' iPads, whether they're on the scene or they're responding to the scene. We also have push notifications to go out to our executive staff so they can watch on their cell phone and they can help support us from their respective areas. Our use cases. Obviously, we utilize UAS for fires, technical rescues. We respond to several mountain rescues every week. I'd say about half the time, the drone is the first one to locate the patient, and they communicate the patient's location and disposition to responders. We respond on hazardous materials incidents. We fly several types of missions for fire prevention. Solar panel inspections, as you see in the picture, is one of those. We also utilize our footage from incidents for training purposes and community engagement. Drones are being leveraged across all industries. We want to be transparent with the community on how the fire department is using this, again, to keep our residents and our firefighters safer. Success stories. This first one you'll see, this is a 3rd alarm fire, significant smoke. But the beauty of our drones is we're able to offer our command officers a split view. So we have the HD camera on one side, the thermal view on the other. They're able to see the direction of travel of the fire. In this one, you can see it's obviously migrated to the adjacent structure. We're able to direct our hose streams more effectively. And with our ability to see through smoke with our thermal camera, we can keep a better eye on our firefighters and make sure that they're operating in safe positions. The picture down in the bottom right, storm assessment. If you all remember July of 24 last year, we had that significant storm cell hit the 43rd Avenue to 51st Avenue, just south of the I-10. Fire prevention asked the drone team to help do damage assessment in a specific grid, and we were able to identify 21 structures that had significant damage similar to this and damage to their rooftop. That would have taken fire prevention several days. For the drone program, it took us approximately 3 hours. Other success stories, this confined space rescue. This is a very high-risk operation. As you can see, we have to pump air into there. We've got several pulley systems, but with our command officers and incident commander being a little bit removed from the scene and our safety officers, they're able to keep an eye on the scene. They're able to make sure that everything is being done correctly and safely, and they can interject if they see anything that they don't like. And then the picture to the right, again, I mentioned we fly several missions for fire prevention. One of those is outside storage inspections. This was an auto storage facility that had been out of compliance. We shot some video and some pictures for them. They were able to utilize that footage and successfully litigate to start levying fines and do other measures to start bringing this specific facility back into compliance. So future of UAS for the Phoenix Fire Department. Drone as a first responder. That's something you'll also hear our PD counterparts speak about because we envision this as a joint venture. But this drone in a box would be placed on top of a fire station or a precinct. If there's a call for service, it would autonomously fly out to that incident, start gathering information. And for the fire department, this provides us with kind of a tiered response. With the drone as a first responder heading to this scene, we also have our tethered drones on command vehicles, and then our Drone 1 response vehicle with the free fly drones would also be responding. If you see in the bottom left, mapping, as I mentioned, we fly mapping missions for our GIS folks, for fire prevention, and we just want to continue to improve on the deliverables, providing them 3D interactive maps. We can identify the volume, the area, the height of piles. So again, just giving them more detailed deliverables. New response vehicles. So we are currently in the works of outfitting a van that will be our new Drone 1 response vehicle. Often we're operating for long hours on scenes. It's very hot outside. Some of the fire scenes, there's loud trucks, smoke. So this gives us more of a controlled environment to operate out of. Additionally, on the back, when both doors open up, there's a large screen TV, so our subject matter experts don't have to look over someone's shoulder. They can see it on the live stream, and, the large screen, and identify anything significant. And then more tethered UAS. As we evaluate the effectiveness of our tethered drones on command vehicles, we'll look to implement more of those on a timely schedule as our executive staff sees fit. And with that, I will hand it to my PD counterpart.
Okay, and before we move on, let me check and see if there's anybody have any questions on the fire portion, or do we want to wait until the end? We're good. Councilwoman Gordado? Okay.
Good morning. Chairperson Robinson and members of the subcommittee, thank you for allowing me the opportunity to speak with you about the police department's UAS program. My name is Christy Calderon, and I am the commander that oversees the drone program. The City Council approved the police UAS program in February of 2022, and in November that year, the program began with 12 pilots. In September of 2023, the UAS program expanded with 19 additional UAS pilots for the patrol response program, and in January 2024, the UAS patrol response program went live. Currently, the UAS program has 28 pilots, comprised of 16 specialty support and 12 patrol support. The following are the quarterly averages for drone calls for service since the program's inception. Over the past year, the number of calls for service has leveled off to an average of approximately 150 calls per month. The police department has 4 internal customers that consist of investigations, tactical, and patrol patrol and events. Investigation support, drones that can assist detectives with mapping, grid searching, and search and rescue. Tactical support can encounter very dynamic situations and may need to utilize multiple pilots for simultaneously events within a single incident. For example, the use of interior drones to search a residence combined with the use of an exterior drone for an aerial view of the residence. During these incidents, the pilot will coordinate with ground units and the air unit. Patrol support, typically the request to assist tends to be shorter than tactical support calls. Patrol support drones are commonly used for burglary alarm calls, to assist in searching large buildings and commercial yards, as well as to support officers who are searching for persons who have fled and are believed to be in the area. Event support, these events are pre-planned and use multiple pilots. Example of these types of events include parades, the Martin Luther King Jr. March, the Fabulous 4th, WNBA All-Star Weekend, and the NCAA Men's Final Four. Recently, we utilized drones for demonstrations throughout the city to support officers on the ground, helping them identify crowd movement, size, and activity. We recently purchased a new drone that has the capability to attach a speaker, allowing for aerial announcements to the crowd. This new drone would have been useful for our ground officers who have been surrounded by demonstrations in the past. Having eyes in the sky provides officers with time, distance, and cover. The pilots can provide officers on the scene with information about a person's location and what they are doing. The video that we are looking at is from last year, located in Camelback Mountain area. These individuals were alleged to have broken into several high-dollar residences while the homeowners were away. The pilots were able to provide officers on the ground with the individuals' movements, and the officers were able to move in just in time before the individuals got into a getaway vehicle. In event planning, drones can be utilized in conjunction with traffic planning. A current aerial photo can be used to plan the optimal ingress and egress routes for a downtown special event. Drones can also be used during the event to report crowd sizes and help direct police and fire personnel who are responding to calls for service within the event's footprint. A drone as a first responder, or DFR, is an unmanned aerial vehicle that is deployed remotely to respond to emergencies. DFR programs can be enhanced public safety and emergency response by providing situational awareness and insights to first responders before they arrive. The DFR program works as follows. When a 911 call is received, a drone can automatically take off and fly to the scene. It can provide a live stream of a scene to first responders, helping them assess the situation, identify hazards, and coordinate response. Future plans of the police UAS program includes continued growth and development of pilot training and skill enhancement, researching and evaluating the drones as a first responder model in collaboration with neighboring agencies, and identifying new drone technology to support operations. Thank you for your time. I'll pass it on to Jared.
Thank you, Commander. Thank you, Chairman Robinson and members of the subcommittee for the opportunity to talk about the Parks Department's UAS program. Similar to the police and fire departments, our SOPs are built on the same standards and procedures that they have in place relative to the Federal Aviation Administration and the City of Phoenix administrative regulations. But within the Parks Department specifically, our SOPs are also designed to protect wildlife and preserves, as you can imagine. Some of the use cases that you can see on screen here are typically what we use the UASs for. Our first flight was just September of last year. Since then, we've had 35 flights to date as of February 14. So some of those aspects include trail inspection and planning. It allows us to see trails, and we have what we call social trails that arise on occasion when people go off official trails. This allows us to be able to inspect those and plan mitigation efforts to remove those social trails. It also will allow us the opportunity to manage cultural resources. So this could be archaeology or historic structures that are within the preserve that we can go out there and inspect periodically without having to introduce footsteps that might lead others to sensitive areas that they shouldn't be at. We also are excited about the potential and have begun using the technology for invasive species identification and monitoring, and it also helps us to monitor revegetation efforts in various areas of the preserve. It also helps us to identify trash and debris that may accumulate in certain areas in the preserves that might not be visible to the naked eye, but from the air allows us to see that debris and take care of it. This is an example of a revegetation effort. This is at the Rio Salado Habitat Restoration Area just south of us. On the left, you can see before a project, some planting of tall pot trees and other shrubs. And then on the right is the location after they were planted. Periodic reflights of this area will allow us to see the progress of the trees and see how we can fine-tune our efforts in revegetation of natural areas. Another, as I mentioned before, we have the potential to map debris piles and preserves. This is a couple of areas within the Phoenix Mountains Preserve that allowed us to see piles of debris that we hadn't previously known about, and then we're able to do a subsequent cleanup effort to remove that debris. We also have the opportunity, this was a Mighty Machines event at the Burton Bar Library. Multiple agencies, including fire and police, were there, and our park rangers there with our all-terrain vehicles, letting children learn more about some of the vehicles at the City of Phoenix. We were able to fly our drone and help capture that event as well. This is also, there's an opportunity to track the progress of current projects. This is a Holbert Trailhead in the South Mountain Activity Complex. As you can see, we're able to track progress of construction for this new amenity that will service South Mountain Park. So as we continue through the construction process, we'll be able to routinely fly and continue to monitor the progress and have a good document set of how everything was built over time. Future program goals is to acquire additional drones, including those that do what's called spectral imaging that allows you to more specifically identify plant species. This will allow us to identify invasive species like stinknet and bufflegrass, and then also will further our efforts in that trail inspection and planning as well as cultural resource monitoring. With that, I will turn over to Ashley.
Thank you, Jared. Good morning, Chair Robinson and members of the subcommittee. My name is Ashley Patton, and I am the city's Deputy Communications Director. The Communications Office was thrilled to join the UAS program in January 2024 and have the opportunity to capture photos and video of our beautiful city from the sky. Our goal as a department is unique and a little bit different than the departments you heard from previously in that we serve in a supporting role. So our team works diligently to showcase the work of other departments across the city and communicate about important city messages, projects, and other public information to our community. So our goals of our UAS program and our UAS use are to, 1, capture footage proactively for future use, or 2, by department city leadership request. So proactive footage could look like what we would call beauty shots or B-roll of city skylines, spaces, or facilities for use in various communications projects when the need arises. This video is an example highlighting downtown buildings such as City Hall. And by building our library with quality footage, we are better able to tell the city's stories and get the community involved and informed in our initiatives. You may have recently seen us leverage this type of footage for this year's budget video or in some of the videos played at the recent employee memorial event. Department leadership requests are also an excellent opportunity to tell the city's stories. On average, our team receives 1 request per week for drone support. Here are a few examples of projects we've worked alongside departments to support. Working with the Office of Homeless Solutions, we captured the X-Wing congregate shelters pictured on the left, a still image screenshot from that video. We also worked with OHS to gather footage of the cool roof at the new Phoenix Navigation Center. This footage was used in videos to showcase the city's efforts to address homelessness. And on the right are basketball court renovations at Rose Mofford Park that we worked alongside Parks and Recreation and the city's major events team, as well as the WNBA and Phoenix Mercury, to capture during last year's WNBA All-Star Game. During that time, we also gathered video of the All-Star signage around the city, including the Convention Center, the now PHX Arena, and at City Hall. And here is a still image of what we would call a beauty shot at Papago Park, and another from the Thelda Williams Transit Center. And these are just a few examples. We have captured our water treatment plants, adaptive reuse buildings, historic sites, art pieces, and more, and look forward to continuing to showcase capital improvement projects, geo bond projects, and other important initiatives to showcase taxpayer dollars at work and inform the public about our city services and facilities. As far as our staffing model, currently we have 4 fully licensed FAA certified Part 107 UAS pilots. These 4 members of our team are professional videographers by trade, also known as Phoenix TV, so they have a keen eye for this work. All of our multimedia and public information staff go through visual observer training to ensure that no matter the request or need, they understand how to support the licensed pilots on site for a safe flight/photo video shoot. We abide by safety protocol and all policy requirements, including height and downtown restrictions. We also ensure archival and public records retention policies are followed to ensure that we're meeting policy standards. We have safely conducted 36 flights so far and continue to build our content library as well as fulfill requests. Our videography work was recently nominated in a worldwide film festival in the Best of Arizona category as one of 2 finalists. Although we did not win, we are proud of our team's work, which you can see across the city's social media channels, including on YouTube. Looking ahead, we plan to continue both the proactive and by request approach, forecasting approximately 2 flights per month in 2025, leveraging any opportunity to better tell the city's stories to our community. The demand is high, and the expectation for this type of high-tech and high-quality footage from both internal staff and our residents is there, so we will continue to work diligently to meet the needs and produce engaging and informative content across the board. Thank you so much, Chair and members of the subcommittee. We are all happy to answer any questions you may have.
Mr. Chair, before we move to that, if I may just take a point of privilege to add a big thank you to the City Council for the leadership on this program and launching it back in 2022. Many of you may recall this was no small feat to get this program launched, and the leadership of the City Council was critical in moving this forward. And so I just want to say a personal thank you, because I am confident that this program has not only improved operations, but it has saved lives. So personal thank you to all of you.
All right, thank you. I'll go to my colleagues, see if anybody has any questions. Vice Mayor?
Thank you for all the work that you have done since we passed the program. I would be curious to know some more of the data behind the calls. I mean, this is a great 30,000-foot kind of level and some good examples, but the calls you're going on, what type they are, what kind of outcomes they're having, and maybe without it being too, I would say too much work per se, if you can pull some of that data, that would be great to get in a report in the future. Thank you so much, Chair.
Councilwoman Guardado, do you have any questions?
No, not at the time, but thank you guys so much for the presentation. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. I do have a couple of questions, and Chief Cheatham, I'll start with you because it's interesting with regard to the training. I think that more than anything else. Now, and I guess Commander Calderon, I'll come to you with the same type of question. The training itself, I noticed it was your license that's on there and everything. Do you get the exact same kind of training that the folks in the communications office will and in parks? So is everybody's training the exact same thing?
Chairman Robinson, members of the subcommittee. As far as the FAA license and what it takes to achieve that license, that is all consistent throughout all of the departments. And then each department, and I don't want to speak for all of my others up here, but then you start training with, as I mentioned, how is it specific to the city of Phoenix, the type of missions that we go on, because our types of missions are different than theirs. But one thing is you can get your FAA 107 license without ever having flown a drone. So one of the big things is understanding the operating systems of your drone, getting flight time. So we definitely make sure that all of our pilots are proficient in understanding the different platforms, and each drone is different. The systems are different, but we do also operate consistently off of one software system, and that's DroneSense. It's also a security measure that was put in place by City IT. So some of our trainings are similar when it comes to FAA. That is all consistent, but then we each get specific with our own pilots for the type of missions that we have.
Okay, thank you. That's what I thought was the case. I didn't think that parks and maybe communications needed as much. But Commander Calderon, the question I have for you and for the police department in general, what are the restrictions that are in place? I mean, if we're flying over my house, or can you, what are you allowed to do, or what are there restrictions, what you can and cannot do when operating a drone and possibly looking for somebody or whatever the use may happen to be?
Chairperson Robinson and member of the subcommittee, yes, we would look more like the Fourth Amendment, so any type of search and seizure type of violation. So, for example, if we're flying the drone, we're looking into the back of a house for a vehicle or something like that, it would be the perimeters of the fence. We would not cross over. We would stay high enough that we would keep that privacy. For that example, we would definitely take into that consideration. Our pilots do an additional 40-hour training, and that is that goes into that of exactly what those pilots are allowed to do and use where they can fly. And also they have mandatory quarterly training as well.
Okay. How many drones does the police department have?
A lot.
Because I know there are 28 current pilots. I was just curious.
Correct.
If you don't know, that's okay.
I do not know that answer.
Okay, that's okay. Thank you. I think that was probably the last of the questions that I had. Thank you guys very much. It was an exceptional presentation. If we could, the next opportunity we have to give an update on the program, we'll keep in mind the questions that Vice Mayor would like to see or the issues that she'd like to see addressed with regard to the data and digging a little bit deeper. And as we go through things, one of the things I'd like to see in the future is obviously the fire department can get theirs up pretty quickly because how they're situated. And I guess it's one last question, Commander. Does the police department have that ability? I mean, we had that incident this weekend where, that big old shootout in the West Side, 300 shots were fired, something. I saw it in the news. And would the drone have been, or was the drone used in that situation? Or could it have been?
Chairperson Robinson and members of the subcommittee, I don't believe it was used at that time. We are still continuously to roll out our patrol program that officers that are on patrol at the time, that they will be able to carry the drones in their patrol vehicle, kind of like the 40 mil or pepper ball, that they'll have that ability to be on the streets and working at that time. So.
It's evolving.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Mr. Chair, if I could just add one piece of information to address the Vice Mayor's previous question. We do have a drone website where we publish.
I'm sorry.
Sorry, I'm having trouble with my microphone lately. We do have a website where we publish information not only about our policies, but also we have an open data portal regarding each and every drone flight that goes out by the City of Phoenix. So there is information specific to each flight, what the purpose is, when it happened, those kinds of things on the website for those who would like to dig into that, and then we will incorporate that into future presentations as well.
Okay, thank you very much. Yes, thank you very much. Really enjoyed the presentation. Next, we will welcome Human Services Director Jacqueline Edwards and Assistant Director Tracy Hall to the table to provide information on the Family Advocacy Center and services provided by the city.
Good morning, Chair and members of the subcommittee. I am Jacqueline Edwards, the Director for Human Services. The presentation today provides an update on the City of Phoenix Family Advocacy Center. I am presenting today with Tracy Hall, Assistant Human Services Department Director. And in the audience today, we have our Family Advocacy Center leadership team, Victim Services Deputy Director Susan Hallett, and Administrative Assistant to Christina Blea. The Family Advocacy Center, often referred to as the FAC, is located at 2120 North Central Avenue. It is operated by the Human Services Department's Victim Services Division. In addition to housing the department's Victim Services Division, the FAC is also host to various organizations which have a permanent presence at the site. This includes other city departments like the Phoenix Police Department's Family Investigations Bureau and the Phoenix Police Crimes Against Children Unit, as well as Child Help, which assists in the safe placement of children who have been abused and or neglected, and in court preparation assistance for victims. Honor Health and Phoenix Children's Hospitals are present to provide forensic medical examinations. The Arizona Department of Child Safety Office of Child Welfare Investigations investigates reports of child abuse and neglect. La Frontera Impact provides long-term therapeutic services to crime victims, and Jewish Family and Children's Services provides services through its Shelter Without Walls program for victims of domestic violence. Services are available to individuals of all ages at the FAC. Youth 17 and younger and their non-offending family members are served through Child Help, which support the safe placement of abused and neglected children. Clients 18 and older receive services from the Victim Services Division of the Human Services Department in collaboration with the Phoenix Police Department's Family Investigations Bureau, Domestic Violence and Sexual Assault Unit. Victim advocates in the Human Services Department provide trauma-informed and victim-centered services. And I will now pass it to Assistant Director Tracy Hall, who will share details and data about the services provided to these clients at the FAC.
Thank you, Jacqueline, and good morning, Chairman Robinson and members of the subcommittee. We will begin discussing Child Help. Child Help occupies the first floor of the Family Advocacy Center, co-located with the Phoenix Police Department's Crimes Against Children Unit. Child Help provides treatment, therapy, intervention, and investigation services in a child-friendly and child-centric environment. Services provided by Child Help support the safe placement of abused and neglected children and court preparation assistance for the victims. Children are victims of sexual abuse, child abuse, and domestic violence. Sexual abuse of children is historically listed as the largest reported category. Over 4,000 persons were served through Child Help in 2024. This represents an unduplicated count of persons reporting their victimization. Also in 2024, over 2,000 forensic interviews were conducted, over 3,000 therapy sessions, over 700 medical examinations, and over 4,000 victim advocacy services. Child Help also provided over 15,000 opportunities for community members and professionals to learn about child abuse in its various forms, how to spot child abuse, how to prevent child abuse, and information about mandatory reporting laws. The Human Services Department's Victim Services Division serves adults and children and their families who are victims of domestic violence, sexual assault, human trafficking, and persons impacted by a fatal police incident. Our victim advocates provide services including safety planning, assistance with criminal justice processes, orders of protection, address confidentiality, coping with trauma, and community referrals and resources. Our victim advocates maintain trauma-informed and victim rights training every 5 years. In addition to having victim advocates at the Family Advocacy Center, we also have victim advocates outstationed to provide mobile services. Mobile advocates are stationed at 3 family service centers and the Phoenix Municipal Court. They may also respond to other locations when requested by the police or fire department to assist victims in the immediate aftermath of an incident. Clients are referred to the Victim Services Division for crisis intervention and services. In 2024, the Victim Services Division received over 3,800 referrals. Phoenix Police provided the bulk of the referrals with 3,424 direct referrals. Outreach programs accounted for 140 referrals, and clients reached out to the FAC through its website 118 times. Other city departments referred 52 clients, and other sources, including social service agencies, nonprofits, friends and family members, schools, and self-referrals, accounted for 113 referrals. Just over 3,000 individuals received services from the Victim Services Division in 2024. Clients generally receive more than one type of service, accounting for over 15,000 separate services. And in 2024, there were over 2,000 safety planning efforts, which may involve coaching on the client's safety at work, school, or at home. Safety equipment such as door jammers, gun locks, and cell phones can also be provided. In 2024, over 400 protective court orders were provided, which consist of orders of protection and injunctions against harassment. Clients receive assistance applying for orders in advance and during court hearings. The Victim Services Division caseworkers are successful 94% of the time when an application for an order is filed. And then lastly, in 2024, over 800 forensic medical examinations were conducted at the Family Advocacy Center. And this ensures that evidence of a crime on the victim's body or clothing is preserved and collected in a manner which helps ensure admissibility in court. And now I'll turn it over back to Jacqueline.
The Victim Services Division has a budget of about $3.2 million, which consists of both general funds and grant funds. A portion of the Victim Services Division budget comes from grant funds such as the Victims of Crime Act, or VOCA. Most grants do restrict the work of victim advocates to situations where there is a statutory victim or secondary victim of one of the crime types noted. The grant funding that is provided does cover both general fund positions of 16 FTEs, and the Victims of Crime Act, VOCA, covers 8 FTEs within the Victim Services Division. The current VOCA grant expires in September of 2025. The grant renewal process is currently underway. It is important to note that the federal VOCA grant funds have significantly decreased over the last several years and continues to face threats in continued funding. The Human Services Department is piloting expanding services to clients through a limited one-time funding source. In March, the Victim Services Division launched a therapeutic services solicitation to provide counseling services to Family Advocacy Center clients. With this service, there is no cost to the clients, and there will be a set number of sessions available to both victims and their family members. Eligible therapists must be licensed through the state licensing board and have an office in Maricopa County. We are currently seeking therapists for this pilot, and those interested can email us at fac.therap.ser@phoenix.gov. Thank you, Chairman Robinson and subcommittee members, for the opportunity to share the important services provided at the FAC. We're happy to take any questions you may have.
All right, thank you very much. I think the Vice Mayor may have some questions.
I do, thank you. Thank you so much, Chairman. I appreciate the data, the statistics. The numbers of persons served by Child Help and the number of persons served by the Victim Services Division, those are two separate populations, correct?
Chair, Vice Mayor O'Brien, yes, that is correct.
Excellent. Just wanted to verify that. You know, it's not good to assume things. And then lastly, the funding. About 10% of your budget is from VOCA, and we know how volatile things are, certainly right now with federal dollars. Are we exploring other grants from nonprofit, other foundations, or looking at how we might be able to absorb some of those costs in the future?
Chairman, Vice Mayor O'Brien, yes, the Human Services Department does continue to explore grant funding opportunities, both from foundations, from other public entities as well, to see how we can supplement the budget to continue to provide these critical services in our community.
Wonderful. And I thank you very much for today's presentation. Thank you, Chairman.
The only question I had, Vice Mayor asked the question, it was about concerns about future funding for the VOCA grants. What would we do without them? And I know that you guys are well prepared for those types of things, but that's the world we live in now. So with that, again, I'll extend my thank yous as well. You guys did an excellent presentation. We thank you for the information. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, item 4 will provide us with information on the partnership of the Task Force 1 and the role of the Phoenix Fire Department. We'll welcome Assistant Fire Chief Mark Gonzalez, Division Chief Jake Van Hook, and Deputy Chief Chris Healy.
Good morning, Chairman Robinson, Vice Mayor, and subcommittee members. My name is Mark Gonzalez. I have the pleasure of overseeing the Arizona Task Force program. I am a proud member who was deployed this last fall to North Carolina and Florida as a task force rep on behalf of the Fire Chief Mike Durand, the Phoenix Fire Department, and the City of Phoenix. As stated, I am joined today by Deputy Chief Chris Healy, a task force rep deputy and a task force lead who led the team this past fall. I also have Division Chief Jake Van Hook. Chief Van Hook has been the task force program manager for the last few years until his well-deserved promotion. We have replaced his position, but he is the utmost expert on the Arizona Task Force, and he will present an overview of the program and deployment from this past fall. Our task force team was established in 1994. We are one of 28 teams across America that specialize in emergency support functions, ESF 9 urban search and rescue specifically. We operate on a $1.4 million federal grant from the Department of Homeland Security. We do have concerns due to the uncertainty of continued funding, but we are actively communicating and coordinating with our federal partners and national task force leadership. We are also working through our government relations partners to enlist support from our state congressional representatives. With that, I will pass it over to Chief Van Hook to start the presentation.
Thank you, Chief Gonzalez. Chairman Robinson, members of the subcommittee, thank you for your time this morning. We appreciate the privilege to come and speak to you and share a little bit about Arizona Task Force 1 and the recent deployment that we had last fall. Between September 27th and October 17th, Arizona Task Force 1 spent 20 days deployed to the southeastern United States. Oh, thank you. We spent 20 days deployed to the southeastern United States, and to add context to that deployment, we wanted to share a little bit about the FEMA Urban Search and Rescue, or USAR system. Also, we want to talk a little bit about the commitment to readiness that Arizona Task Force 1 and the Phoenix Fire Department has so that we can be effective on these deployments. Lastly, Chief Healy will speak about the details of these particular deployments. As Chief Gonzalez brought up, we are one of 28 task forces that make up the FEMA USAR system. The FEMA USAR system is part of the emergency support functions that is amassed to support the National Response Framework. Specifically, as Chief Gonzalez mentioned, we are ESF 9, but one of the things to notice on here is that FEMA is one of those terms that's used generically to describe many different coordinated agencies and coordinated functions. We just comprise the ESF 9. Notably, we do not do firefighting, despite the fact that the majority of our members are members of the Phoenix Fire Department. That's ESF 4 and handled by headed by the Department of Agriculture and Forestry. One other point on this particular slide to note is ESF 13. Whenever we're on a deployment, the members of our task force and their safety is of utmost importance. We have ESF 13 contingencies with us. Those members are with us and assigned to the task force the entire time that we're deployed to keep us safe. A little bit about Arizona Task Force 1, as Chief Gonzalez mentioned. We were formed in 1994. The Phoenix Fire Department serves as the sponsoring agency. Each task force has a sponsoring agency. Some of them also have other participating agencies. The Phoenix Fire Department is the primary agency that makes up the membership of the task force. However, we also have contracted ER doctors, emergency room doctors, structural engineers who help us on deployments to ensure that our members are safe, that buildings are suitable for us to go in, and the modifications that are needed to do that safely. Additionally, we bring other civilian staff as well that assist with the effectiveness of the deployment. As mentioned, when we're not deployed, Arizona Task Force 1 is concentrated on readiness or preparedness. We're funded by the annual $1.4 million budget provided by the Department of Homeland Security. That's a readiness cooperative agreement. It comes before council each year, and it allows us to train our personnel to make sure that we're effective, to make sure that we can perform the functions asked of us, also to procure equipment. I'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment, and then to store and maintain the fleet of vehicles, the equipment, and we're also provided funding for the administration and management of the task force. All of those things are provided through that grant that comes each year. Currently, Arizona Task Force 1 is made up of 206 members. We're trained and deployable, and the training capabilities are similar to those that we enjoy here in the city of Phoenix. So think technical rescue for trench and confined space, hazardous materials mitigation and response. Those are the sorts of things that we can bring in addition to structural collapse capabilities and search and rescue. Locally, this training has benefited the city of Phoenix as recently as last year. The collapse that we had near 47th Avenue, these types of skills and equipment were utilized on that incident as well. In addition, in 2006, we had the Civic Center collapse, again, the task force skills and members were part of that response as well. And then in 2003, on a more state level, 23, on a state level perspective, the flooding in Yuma was something that we were able to assist with as well. A little bit about our history in terms of deployments. We first deployed to the Northridge earthquake in California in 1994. Other notable deployments, Oklahoma City bombing in 1995, of course 9/11 in New York City, and Hurricane Katrina in 2005. Of late, the majority of our deployments have revolved around large storms and hurricanes and things of that nature. So how does it work? How do we get from here in Arizona to going and assisting on some of these large-scale disasters? Initially, a local response, just like we would have here, takes the first steps in disaster management. So things that we use here in the city of Phoenix are used elsewhere, so automatic aid, mutual aid. When those resources are exhausted, it moves up to the region or county. If they cannot fulfill all the resource needs, it would move to the state where we could have an EMAC request. Ultimately, it would become an emergency disaster declaration, and FEMA USAR, if there are search and rescue needs, would then coordinate the task forces from around the country to come and respond. Typically, they start with the teams that are closest, so proximity drives that, and then ultimately there's a rotation matrix and other task forces will come as needed. When we're deployed, of course, we're taking a certain number of members from the Phoenix Fire Department from operations. FEMA backfills those positions, or pays for the backfill of those positions rather. So other Phoenix Fire Department members will fill in those vacancies, and then the city of Phoenix is reimbursed for the expense that's caused by that. So as you can see that the federal response or the federal program also has local benefit to us. We believe that that model, that proven model of integrating local expertise with federal unified command is a benefit not only to the nation, but also to the city of Phoenix and the community at large. So a little bit about the particular deployment that we went on last fall. By September 26th, the FEMA USAR team had pre-deployed. They had set up an emergency declaration prior to landfall for Hurricane Helene. So they had pre-deployed 16 of 28 task forces. This is around 900 personnel that were in place already prior to landfall, just anticipation of the hurricane making landfall because it was so large. It was a Category 4 just before it made landfall in the Big Bend, Florida area around 11 p.m. on September 26th. At that time, we actually felt like it was probably unlikely, given our distance and what we knew about the storm at that time, that we would be deployed, but nonetheless we were. It weakened to a Category 2 hurricane as it made landfall and moved northward. And then as it continued north and the excessive rain continued as well, some of the dams in the general area of Asheville, North Carolina, were overtopped, and Asheville was flooded. At 3 a.m. on the 27th, we received a phone call from the, thank you. At 3 a.m. on the 27th, we received a phone call from the branch in Washington, D.C., advising us that we were going to be activated. They asked for a Type 3 search and rescue task force, which is 45 members, and all of our equipment. So the equipment that's assembled is all that is needed for boat and water rescue, structural collapse, hazardous materials identification and mitigation, and then of course all the logistical equipment that we need to house and just allow 45 members to be on the road. So everything from sleeping accommodations to meals made ready, so MREs, water, fuel, all of those things have to be brought along with us. In total, we brought 16 vehicles weighing a total of about 100,000 pounds and having a value of about $7 million. We departed at 5 p.m. and drove for approximately 52 hours, and then we arrived around 9 p.m. on the 29th of September to a pitch black Asheville. It's important to understand that Asheville had no electricity, no water, no cellular, no fuel. It was an austere condition, to say the least. At At this point, I'm going to turn it over to Deputy Chief Chris Healy, who served as a task force leader for these 2 deployments.
Thank you, Chief Van Hook. Good morning, Chairman Robinson, Vice Mayor O'Brien, members of the subcommittee. My name is Chris Healy. I'm a Deputy Chief with the Phoenix Fire Department, and I served as the task force leader for Arizona Task Force 1 on our most recent deployments to North Carolina and Florida. As Chief Van Hook explained, we were deployed to the Asheville area, and once we arrived in Asheville at around 9 o'clock at night, we rested the team overnight and immediately were given a mission the next morning. Our first mission was to search structures, vehicles, and strainers along the French Broad River north of Asheville. The devastation and destruction was incredible. Everywhere we looked, vehicles no longer looked like vehicles, buildings no longer looked like buildings, and there was incredibly large debris fields and piles of debris and trees and everything else. With this, the consideration and safety of our members is always paramount. We assess where we're going to be working. We assure that our team members are issued the proper PPE, personal protective equipment. We utilize task force safety officers. We manage the accountability of the members as they work. We manage those rest work cycles. The conditions that our teams encountered during this work period were large, deep pockets of mud, destroyed roadways, and as I said, collapsed buildings. With this brings a lot of unknown hazards in the area. So decontamination of our team members and our equipment is critical and is built into our daily operations plan. And we take into consideration the public health concerns, not only for our team members, but the public that we are interacting with as far as infectious diseases and exposures to hazardous materials. The typical work day for our team when deployed can be anywhere from 12 to 14 hours of work. Conclusion of that work day is then when we would do that decontamination, rehabilitation, and rest the team. As we completed our missions assigned along the French Broad River, we are reassigned near the center of Asheville in an urban area with more evidence of the sheer power of the water was observed. Portions of roads were peeled up, many bridges were uncrossable, and our task force work locations changed frequently, requiring considerable planning and coordination to access these areas and work along with the local jurisdictions and other teams. The height of the water in parts of the town was estimated to be at 27 feet above flood stage. Covering an entire city and organizing the work of 20+ task forces required considerable coordination. One way this is accomplished is by ensuring the equipment, training, and methodologies of all the task force mirrors one another. In some of these pictures, you can see that we're working along a task force from New Jersey, task forces from Virginia, and task forces from the state of Washington. One of the most recent examples of this coordination is search data collection. FEMA uses a system called SARCOP, which stands for Search and Rescue Common Operating Platform. It's built on one of the most robust GIS or graphic info systems currently available, and SARCOP combines field data collection using iPads or other tablets with real-time dashboard information provided to key decision makers and elected officials. This is used to ensure complete coverage in the areas that we're working and to allow for critical real-time decision making as needs from the community continue to surface. On the morning of Wednesday, October 8th, Arizona Task Force 1 received transfer orders to relocate to Perry, Georgia, as in anticipation of Hurricane Milton's arrival in Florida. Arizona Task Force 1 remained in Perry, Georgia until the morning of Thursday, October 10th, and received orders to respond to the St. Petersburg, Florida area. We work closely to coordinate our efforts with local fire departments and other federal task forces working in the St. Petersburg area. And over the course of the following 3 days, Arizona Task Force 1 completed several structural damage assessments within the St. Petersburg area. Much of this work was focused on several flooded mobile home parks and residential neighborhoods near Lake Maggiore and other areas identified in coordination with local officials. The task force established and worked out of a base of operations and set up sleeping quarters at the Florida State Fairgrounds and remained there for the 3 nights. On Monday, October 13th, Arizona Task Force 1 received demobilization orders to return to its home base in Phoenix, Arizona. Arizona Task Force 1 departed promptly in convoy with overnight stops in Gainesville, Florida, Gulfport, Mississippi, San Antonio, Texas, El Paso, Texas, before arriving home in Phoenix without incident. Upon return, members were greeted by officials from the Phoenix Fire Department, the Arizona Task Force 1 home team, local media, and team members' families who were very happy for them to arrive home safely. This deployment lasted approximately 20 days. It was one of our longest. Our longest deployment that we had been on was for Hurricanes Harvey and Irma, which lasted 21 days. That concludes the presentation. Thank you for your time. We'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. I'll check with my colleagues. Vice Mayor, any questions?
I don't know that I have really questions, just want to express my deep gratitude for all the work that you do, not only on a daily basis, but that our team members additionally do in these times of crisis in our country. So thank you to all of you and to the members of that team. It looks like we have a couple of furry friends who also go with you all, and that is awesome to see. So again, thanks for the presentation.
Okay, and I'll just make one quick comment. I was more curious than anything else. The equipment that we get from the feds, are we allowed to use it, or do you use it when the opportunity presents itself, or can it only be used during a deployment when you're actually called up?
Chairman Robinson, members of the subcommittee, we are allowed to use that equipment in extreme cases. The grant kind of guidelines allow for us to use that for local or even a state response, as long as we remain available for a federal response as well. That's the only stipulation.
All right, thank you very much. And I'll echo the Vice Mayor's comments. Exceptional presentation. Thank you very much for all the information. And yeah, keep up the good work. I don't know what else to tell you. And thank you. Okay, our last presentation for the day is the quarterly presentation on the CAP programs, hiring efforts, and expansion. We'll welcome Assistant Fire Chief Ray Ochoa and CAP Administrator DC Ernst to the table.
Good morning, Chair Robinson, Vice Mayor O'Brien, and council members. Today, I'm happy to be before you to talk to you about the improvements or the gains that CAP has made in the past 3 months. Today, I'll be talking about our recruitment, our current staffing, the transferred calls from PD communications, and then updates on both our behavioral health and CR teams, as well as a recent congressional recognition that we received. CAP continues to work with the Human Resources Department to recruit for crisis intervention specialists. We have also coordinated with the Mobile Career Unit to host a hiring event. The Mobile Unit, the Mobile Career Unit event was a successful event. We actually recruited prior to that event, but we also accepted walk-ins. I'll be providing more details regarding how these individuals that were hired are impacting CAP's numbers, So I'm happy to report that we are currently at 80% of our positions filled, with 20% still vacant. And we continue to have several employees or candidates in background right now. This slide shows an overview of how our CAP is organized. The highlighted areas, the crisis intervention specialist and peer support specialist under the behavioral health dispatchers, is what we're focused on right now and continuing to hire and fill those positions. At this time, we have 6 behavioral health units that are up 7 days a week, 23.5 hours daily. And we also have 6 crisis response units up 7 days a week, ranging from 24 hours to 22 hours of coverage daily. As you may recall, the goal for us is to have 9 behavioral health units staffed. We're currently at 67% of that target, and we anticipate having the remainder of the units filled by the first quarter of 2026. After we filled those units, we will look again to fill crisis response units. Our goal there is 10. We currently have 6, so we're at 60%. I will tell you that during the interview process, if we interview someone who would be a better fit for the crisis response teams, we do hire them at that moment for that particular team. One of our goals was to ensure that we had a behavioral health supervisor or dispatcher available in fire dispatch 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I'm happy to report that on March 31st, we reached that goal, and we now have that coverage. CAP is continuing to collaborate with different police entities. We recently worked with Police Communications as well as Sabrina Taylor from CIT to revamp a video that we had created when we first put a BHU team in service. That video has been distributed for e-learning for all police officers, police administration, and communication division. I also had the pleasure in March of going before the PD command staff and providing them with an update on our program and how police can utilize our units. We are continuing to work with police communications to identify the possibility of putting additional supervisors in police communications to continue to help identify calls that can be transferred from PD to our program. You'll see on this slide, which shows the transferred calls, that we remain consistent in January and February with 234 calls transferred, which is trending at 142% increase from the first 2 months of 2024. This slide you've seen before. We haven't had any changes in the locations where we have our BHU units at this time. Our behavioral health units actually responded out to 496 calls in February. Again, they respond out to calls in addition to the calls that are transferred from PD. The calls from PD account for 47% of the total calls that the BHU teams went out on. There is still showing an increasing trend between the first 2 months of 2024 and 2025. We had 105% increase in the number of calls that our teams are responding to. I'm happy to show this slide for the first time. We had been asked to provide information on the types of calls we're responding to with police and fire, or how many calls we're responding to with police and fire. As you may recall, the purpose of the BHU teams were to eliminate or avoid police having to respond on calls where their services were not needed, and a behavioral health team made more sense. 76% of the calls that our BHU teams respond on are singular units. There are still times when we respond with police, or once PD gets on scene, they identify that a behavioral health unit is needed and they will ask for our services. Fire has also identified calls for us to come out and assist them with, and then calls where they're both at is at 2%. Next, I'll move to the crisis response program. And again, this slide you've seen before, and we haven't had no movement in the locations where our teams are currently located. Our crisis response units continue to see an increase in the total number of calls, with a 13% increase in comparison to the first 2 months of 2024 to 2025. We've included the breakdown of their responses with fire and PD. As you may recall, in 1995, CAP started with the crisis response teams, and they were built as a co-response unit for fire, and we have gradually increased that to include police. So you'll see that their singular unit numbers are only 8%, while the majority of their calls are co-response with either police or fire. Another new slide for you. This slide represents the average time that it takes once a team is dispatched to get on scene. So for behavioral health units, it's 24 minutes, and for our crisis response units, it is 23 minutes. We're also continuing to do community outreach. We have actually participated in 10 in February, but I only listed a few of them, which was the 2025 point in time count. The Teen Dating Violence Resource Fair, the Maryvale Awakening Resource, and we were at the Maricopa Veterans Stand Down both days that was held. As I mentioned, we did receive a congressional accommodation. On March 20th, the National Alliance of Mental Health or Mental Illness, Valley of the Sun, held a breakfast event titled Heroes Among Us, Shining a Light on Unsung Mental Health Heroes. CAP was one of the agencies that was recognized, and we received a certificate of congressional recognition from former city mayor and now Representative Greg Stanton. We are continuing to move forward with hiring to get that 20% filled. With that, we anticipate that will increase the number of units, behavioral health units that we'll be able to put into play, as well as the hours will then go to 24-hour coverage. We are continuing to work with PD to increase those transferred calls from PD. And as we continue to grow, quickly, we're continuing to work on team building to make sure that our team members are successful in what they do. And that concludes my presentation, and I'm available for questions.
Thank you very much. I will turn to my colleagues. Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Chair. CAP started in 1995 as a co-response. When did we add the BHUs?
The funding for the BHU started in fiscal year 21-22. We put our first behavioral health unit into service in September of 2022.
Okay, thank you for helping me. My memory doesn't always remember when we start things up. But I wanted to say, congratulations on all your hard work to get us to more of a 24-hour model in some of these areas. And certainly to 7 days a week or 5 days a week. So we've come a long way, baby. Thank you very much for that. I wanted to ask about our calls transferred. It's slide 10, I believe, and you don't need to bring it up, but I just want you to know what I'm referencing. Did we start, is January 92, is that when we started collecting data? Or sorry, not January of 92, January of 2024. No, we would have had data from before that, given when we went into action, right? September of 2022.
Chair Robinson, Vice Mayor O'Brien, thank you for the question. I believe we did start collecting the data in January. I would have to go back and look.
Okay, if we have data before 2024, I would love to see a 3-year data model on this, and Lori and other things. We can talk more about that, but I think it just gives us a little bit better perspective. But again, congratulations on getting those transferred from police, especially when you were able to take those calls actually off their hands. So those are impressive numbers. Has there also, when did the increase in staffing occur, just relative to the numbers that we're servicing? I'm just trying to understand how that correlates, because I know we're not fully staffed, and I'm excited about the numbers anyways, but I'm just trying to see when we increase staff on here. And if you can't answer that today, that's quite all right. If going forward, we can just kind of have those little notes on the chart to say, we were at 3, because at one point we were only doing like 3 days a week or something, and then we've added in there. It would be helpful to understand some of those as we see calls increase, or the answering of calls, if that makes sense.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Chair Robinson and Vice Mayor O'Brien, there are 2 dates that stand out in my mind for hiring. March of 2023, we had a massive hiring, which means they probably would have started in May of 2023 or July of 2023. And then most recently, we just hired an additional 18 people who are actually going into service either last week or this week.
Wonderful. Okay, and those kinds of big jumps are I think meaningful to these kinds of charts, just to see where those impacts are, not only, but then from that point on, the calls, how they're handled, how many you're able to handle and the impact we're having on the community. So, but just kudos. I know you have been working so hard on making sure we fill those positions and increase the staffing so that we have a bigger outreach in our community. And I thank you for that. And I'm sure so does the police department and our firefighters. Thanks.
Excuse me. I don't have any questions either, but DC and Chief, you guys, it's exceptional work that you've been doing. I know it's a Herculean task, but you're moving along. You're getting there, and can't wait to hear probably another quarter or so from now about your progress at that point. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, items 6 and 7 are for information only. Do either of my colleagues have any questions about either one?
I don't. I think we have.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I do not. Okay. All right. At this point, last item of today is the call to the public.
Mr.
I know
Chair.
we have a couple registered speakers. The first one will be Annie Ender on item number 6, Phoenix Police Department recruitment and hiring and attrition update.
Good morning. Chairman Robinson and subcommittee members, I'm Ann Ender. I'm the president of Operation Blue Ribbon. Just a comment and a few questions I'm hoping could be taken for consideration. If anyone can answer them, that would be great. It's regarding the staffing report. So I'm curious as to what we, the community, can do or provide to the city manager's office and Phoenix PD in order to receive a staffing report with the following data. First, on the first page of the report, current sworn total, which is 2,493. Current response time by precinct and citywide. I have year-end 2024 priority 1 at 7:26, priority 2 at 28 minutes, and priority 3 at 61 minutes. Projected attrition for the next month and year-end. Early drop stats to include money being left on the table. Reason for early drop: full retirement, lateral to or promotion to another agency, other career opportunities, and or dissatisfaction with the department. Academy recruitment loss within a year and financial impact. Current breakdown of the CAOs, and then any current benchmarking activities with other agencies that are successfully recruiting. And on a positive last minute note here, I've got 37 seconds. 2 days ago, Chelsea Moldovan posted that it's been 1,172 days since Officer Moldovan was so very critically injured. And on that day, without the help of any human beings, but only a walker, he made a successful walk around the rehab center where he's continuing to recover. And so I end this on with saying we've all witnessed a miracle.
Thank you. And Annie, I also had you down for item number 7.
Oh, okay. 1, 2, 3. So I just wanted to thank this subcommittee and the mayor and council for approving the TPT sales tax. As we know, the fire department is desperately in need of that money to add stations, equipment, and resources in terms of personnel in order to save lives and really to make sure we have a robust public safety. So thank you very much. I also want to let you know Operation Blue Ribbon has been encouraging the community to attend the trial budget hearings so that people can weigh in on that. Thank you.
Thank you. And next is Orla Bobo on item number 7.
Good morning. The underfunding of our fire department has resulted in another tragedy. Archie Wiggins died in a house fire in Arcadia on February 7th. Nearby fire trucks were busy on other calls, resulting in a seriously delayed response by Phoenix Fire due to underfunding and lack of resources. From the time of dispatch to finding Mr. Wiggins in the house fire was nearly 18 minutes. This happened in your district, Councilman Robinson. Mr. Wiggins' death is a direct result of city underfunding our fire department and leaving them in crisis mode for 10 years. Chief Duran and our first responders are not to blame for this. Firefighters are doing what they can with the limited resources they have. The fire department has been begging for help from the city for years. Taxpayers are currently being billed for the 23 GO bond. Voters passed this bond to fund fire stations and solve the response time crisis. The city has not even started building these stations. What the city is proposing now to fund the fire department with the TPT is not enough. City leaders need to make necessary cuts elsewhere to bring our fire department back up to speed and meet the national response time standards. Our fire department must be fully funded immediately. Waiting 5 to 10 years for stations to be built is unacceptable. People are dying now. Divert all spending to handle the crisis. If you're taxing the citizens to solve the response time crisis, then give that money to the fire department. The city is responsible for every single citizen and firefighter who dies as a result of a delayed response time. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I may have made a mistake. I think I have two different agendas up here. I don't know that we missed anything, an update from the Office of Accountability and Transparency, but it's few. Okay, all right, then. I thought I was going crazy. It would be a short trip for me, so we're okay. Okay, are there any requests for any future agenda items?
Yes.
Yes.
Park security. I think I've mentioned this to you before.
Yeah, but actually I know we should have it.
Mr. Chair, we do have that scheduled for the June meeting.
Yeah, we do. Anything else? Councilwoman Guardado? That being the case, the time is...
No, I don't.
I'm sorry. Did you have anything, Councilwoman?
No, I don't. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. That being the case, time is 11:26. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much.
To cut the ribbon, if the speakers could join me in front of the gold ribbon.
Ready? 3, 2, 1.